Alright, this is just a review for the test. So that's all I'm going to do is review for the quiz. So I'm just going to go over some basic things that you need to know for the quiz in a lot of detail. So I'll probably go over a couple problems. So once you get the hang of it, if you want to skip ahead, I will let you know when we're starting a new unit. So I'll write something big so you can figure it out. First things first. Foiling. All that is just multiplying across. So if I give you 3x minus 5, 2x plus 6. Can you FOIL this out? When we talk about FOIL, it stands for first, outer, inner, last. So what I always do is I say 3x to the 2x and 3x to the 6. So 3x times 2x is 6x squared. The next thing I'm going to do is negative 5 across. That gives me, 3x times 6 is 18x, negative 10x, negative 30. Combine my middle terms. My middle terms are always going to be the ones that I can combine when we have this. And so my answer is 6x squared plus 8x minus 30. The next one I'm going to go over deals with multiplying a 2 times a 3. So it's a little more difficult. So if I had 3x minus 5, 2x squared minus 7x plus 3, and I did this. So I'm still going to multiply the 3x here, but I'm also going to multiply the 3x to the 7 and the 3x to the 3. So I'm multiplying the 3x times every single thing. So here this is going to give me 6x cubed minus 21x squared plus 9x. I'm then going to multiply the negative 5 to all three terms. Here this is going to give me negative 10x squared, positive 35x, and then minus 15. And so from here I'll combine like terms. I'll have 1x cubed, so it'll be 6x cubed. And guys, when I'm going through this, I will start crossing things off. I'm done using that. Now what do I have? I have an x squared and an x squared. That gives me negative 31x squared. Cross them out. And then here this is going to be positive 44x, and then the minus 15. That's that. Now we're going to get into greatest common factor. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit so that way if people did skip ahead, they can see that it's something new, and go from there. Alright, GCF stands for greatest common factor, and all that's saying is what's the biggest number that goes into every single thing. So, for example, if we had 22 x to the 5th, y to the 3rd, z squared minus 2x to the 7, y squared, z to the 5th. So here with these just two terms, all I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at each number and say, what's the biggest number that goes into both? So in this case, 2 is the biggest number that goes into both, and so I'll pull out a 2. And now I'll sit here and say, how many x's do I have? Well, the biggest number that goes into both is 5. Yes, this one has 7, but we're saying, what do they both have? Y squared, z squared. So now I'm saying, what do I have left? So if I multiply this back to my other terms, I better get this exact same answer. So it's going to be 11y minus x squared z to the third. And so if I multiply that back across, I should get the exact same answer. So now let's do it with 3 terms. So we're just adding one more term to it. So let's go 8x squared y to the third z to the fourth minus 4x y to the fifth plus 12x to the fifth y to the fourth z, we'll say squared. Alright, so guys, by the way, anytime you're going through these videos, if you want to try to do it, press pause, work out the problem. I'm going to work out every single problem in detail. So here, I'm going to say, what do they all have in common? What can I take out from all of them? 4 goes in every single one, so I'll take out a 4. I'll then start looking at each variable individually. So x, x, x. I can take out the smallest number that they each have. Well, the smallest one is an x. I will then look at y. There's a y there, y there, y there. Smallest number is y cubed. Z. There's not a z here, so I can't take out a z from anything. It's only if they all have a z in it. So from here, this is going to be 2x z to the fourth minus y squared plus 3x to the fourth y z squared. And that is my answer. If I wanted to check my work, I could sit there and multiply this all the way back across and see if I get the exact same answer. Alright, this is going to be normal factoring. So we'll go over this as quickly as possible. Factoring. So I'm going to go over a basic one first. So if I had x squared plus 7x plus 10. First thing I am going to do is I'm going to first set up 2 sets of parentheses and say what times what gives me x squared. That's what's going to go in my first 2 terms. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to list what goes into my last term here. If this is a plus sign, that means I'm going to be adding up these terms. Now there's a number in front and something a little bit different, but we'll go over that in a second. So which ones do I add up to give me this middle term? Well, 2 and 5, because I add 10 and 1 gives me 11, that gives me 7. So this is going to be a 5 and a 2, and because that's a plus sign, that means both of those are going to be positive as well. So I'll do one where it's not this easy, and then I'll start doing ones with coefficients in front. A leading coefficient just means that there's a number here besides 1. So we'll have x squared minus 5x minus 24. So same thing I'm going to do. 2 sets of parentheses. And now all I'm going to say is what times what gives me x squared. X times x. If you want a quick way to check your work, if I multiply here and my last 2 terms, I better get my first term and my last term. So now I'm just going to list every single factor that I can think of in my head that gives me 24. So 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. I think that's it. Because this is a subtraction sign, first things first is these signs are going to be opposite. One's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. The second thing it means is that this means I'm going to be subtracting. I'm going to be subtracting my two numbers up to get negative 5x. So all I'm going to do here is put a minus sign in between and say, what does this give me? This gives me 23. This gives me 10. This gives me 5. This gives me 2. So I want the 5. I want it negative. So I need a negative 8 and a positive 3. And so that is my answer. The next one is going to be a leading coefficient of something besides 1, and we'll get into factoring that way. So this one is going to be 3x squared minus 22x plus 24. So this one, same concept. I'm going to set up two sets of parentheses. And once again, remember from the last one, whatever multiplies to the first two has to give me 3x squared. Well, the only options there are 3 times 1. So that's going to be 3x and 1x. Now the hard part is just going to be saying what times what gives me 24. So unless every single factor again of 1, or 24, so 1 and 24, 24 right, 2 and 12, 3 and 8 again, and then 4 and 6. So now we're trying to get, when I multiply, so now since this is a plus sign, we're going to be adding. So my signs are going to be the same no matter what. Because this is a negative sign, that means both my signs are going to be negative. So now I just got to figure out how can I work this out to get to something around 22. So anytime I multiply a number, I don't want it to get a bit above 22. So that means right then and there, 1 and 24 is out. Because 1 times 24 is 24, which is bigger than 22. 2 and 12. If I put 12 here, well, to check my work, I'm going to multiply that times 3, and that's going to be way above 22. So, what if I move the 12 over to the other side? Well, that means 12 is here, and 2 is here. So 12 times 1 is 12. 3 times 2 is 6. So that would give me 18. So that's not going to work. 8 and 3, it's the same concept. It's not going to work out no matter how you plug it in. If you put an 8 on this side, that's going to give me something bigger than 22. So I'm left with 6 and 4. So if I put the 4 here, that gives me 12, and then I only have 6 left. So let's try 6 here and 4 here, and see if that works out. So I multiply, that's 18x, and that's 4x. I combine those because I'm adding, and I get 22x. And that is my answer. Next one I'm going to be doing is going to be subtracting. So here we have 6x squared minus x minus 12. So same concept, unless the factors of 6 and 1, 1 and 12, 6 and 2, 3 and 4. So now, 2 and 3 are there as well. Two sets of parentheses. Since this is a small number, most likely my big numbers are going to be out. So I'm just going to try 3 and 2. So 3x, 2x. It does not matter where I put 2 and 3x. Since my signs are opposite, I don't know where the plus sign and minus sign are going to go, so I'm going to add that in last. So here, I'm going to try my smaller numbers first, just because it's a -1. So I figure it should be somewhere around -1. So let's just try. I'll try a 4 and a 3. So to check my work, I will use red. I'm going to multiply here and here. So that gives me 12 and 6x. since that's the minus sign, I am subtracting. I can't subtract those to get 1. So I'm just going to flip-flop them. So 3 and 4, and see, I get 9x and 8x. I want a negative 1, so that means that I need a negative 9, or if you want to look at it this way, whatever that sign is, it's going to go on the bigger number. So since my 9 is bigger, it's going to go on my negative, on my 9, and that's going to be positive. So I need a negative 9. Well, how did I get 9x? I multiplied 3x times 3. So that means this 3 here has to be negative, and this has to be positive. The other thing that is on the test, quadratic formula, and that is just plugging it into this formula, negative b plus or minus b squared, or negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 ac all over 2a. I'm not going to do one of these examples. It's just something you should know how to do. I want to go over the other one that's on the test, which is completing the square. Completing the square. Let's just go with x squared minus 10x, and we'll say one that does not work out, so we'll say plus, nope, we'll say minus 24. Alright, so it's equal to 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 24 to both sides. And I'm just getting my x's by themselves. My next step is I'm going to take my middle term, whatever my x is, I'm going to take the sign with it. So negative 10. I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to square it. So negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is a positive 25. So that positive 25, I'm going to add to both sides. Add to both sides. So here, when I set up this parentheses, it's going to be x plus or minus whatever I squared. So whether it's negative 5, negative 6, whatever that is, that's going to go here. And this is going to equal 49. And basically what I did is this factored, it's going to factor in x minus 5, x minus 5, which is the same thing twice, so that's why I can write it as squared. And now we're just going to solve. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. When I take the square root of something, it turns into plus or minus whatever that answer is. So this is going to be x minus 5 is equal to, the square root of 49 is 7, so 7, and then x minus 5 is going to be equal to negative 7. So after I solve for x, to solve for x I'll add 5 to both sides. I get that x is equal to 12, and x is equal to negative 2. Alright, this is the last one I want you to do, and then we will go over it. So the last one is x squared. We'll say plus 14x minus x plus 44 is equal to 0. So same thing. First thing I'm going to do is press pause and do the problem, and then see if I did it correctly. So first thing I'm going to do is subtract 44 from both sides. So I'm just going to write negative 44. I'm then going to take 14, I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to square it. So that gives me a positive 7 squared, which is 49. This one's not going to work out because I can't add and subtract numbers. So it's 49. So I'll add 49 here. I'll add 49 there. So this is going to factor into x plus 7, x plus 7. So once again, it's going to be x plus or minus whatever that number is that I divided by 2. Quantity squared is equal to a positive 5. So now I am going to take the square root of both sides. So x plus 7 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 5. And so then to solve for it, I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. So I get x is equal to negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 5. If you want to leave it like that, you can. If you want to make it as decimal, that's your choice. That is it. That is going to be on the quiz. I might put a bonus of completing the square or cubic. So we'll go over 1 cubic, and then that is it. I want you to eat dinner. 8 x to the third. I'm going to do it twice, one with a minus sign, one with a plus, so that way you see. So minus, we'll say 125. Do the exact same numbers, except for it's going to be a plus sign in between. So this is going to be 2x minus 5, because we're saying what times what times what gives me 8. Well, that's 2 times 2 times 2. What times what gives me 125. 5 times 5 times 5. And so now I'm going to take 2x, I'm going to multiply it times itself. And so that's how I get 4x squared. When we deal with the minus sign, it's going to be minus here, a minus here, and everything else is going to be a positive. So this is going to be positive, this is going to be positive, and I'm going to close the parentheses. And so now I'm going to say, to find my middle term here, I'm just going to multiply those two numbers together. I don't worry about the signs, I just multiply them together, and for the last one, I'm going to multiply 5, or whatever it is, times itself. So the only difference from these two answers is it's going to be 2x plus 5, and my other one's going to be 4x squared minus 10x, and it's going to be a plus 25 again. Alright guys, that is it. See you tomorrow. Carmichael, out.